Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. So today I have another Rajah II from Cold Steel. Now I've customized one of these before and I go a little more into depth about it and give you some more specs. I'll leave a link up to that video here in the corner if you guys haven't seen it already. But this is for a recent customer that I've done the Voyager XL for. And since this knife has, it's a big knife. Since this thing has recessed scales, as you guys can see right there, that is my weakness, but Matthew, the owner of the Vaquero and the other style Voyager XL that I did for him, we decided to just lay the material on top and just go with the liners, the shape of the liners, which turned out great. It does function. And Matthew is okay with the same thing being done to the Rajah II. So like I said, I'm not going to be getting too much in depth about the specs or anything, but I will show you guys what I will be creating for the scales, or not the scales, but for the backspacer. The scales I'm going to use the G10/carbon fiber mix, which you guys have seen before. And I'll leave a link up to the videos that I did for Matthew, the Voyager XLs, somewhere up here in the corner. You can check those out if you haven't seen those either. But the backspacer, believe it or not, is going to be titanium. Now, I rarely work with titanium because it's very difficult to work with, especially by hand. So what I'm going to do is my best to create a titanium backspacer with this material. Very thick stuff. I did buy some bits that should go through this easier. Now, if by the end of the video I don't have a titanium backspacer, it's because I just couldn't do it. So I'm going to do my best to make it happen because, well, I think titanium's awesome and you can anodize it any color you'd like. And it's just a lot lighter than using steel or brass. So with that being said, I will be doing the scales and the titanium backspacer. I won't be taking it apart since I've done that in the other videos, but it's pretty much it. So let's get to customizing it. Alright, so here it is all finished, and a lot of time went into basically the titanium backspacer. I'll get more into it in just a second, but basically everything on this knife took quite a bit of time. Just wanted to get it perfect, and again, let's get into the most difficult part of this mod or custom build on this knife was the titanium backspacer. Now this thing reminded me of why I don't work with titanium, especially by hand, because it is very, very difficult, and I don't know how I managed to pull this one off, but it works. Again, it's going to be a while before I touch any more titanium because it ate up a lot of time. It took forever to make, but really happy with the outcome. And then I continued on with the rock pattern texture with the lock bar as well. But this was etched and stone washed, again just to give it some contrast against the liners, which I left a satin finish on them. This turned out really well. And then we also did the blade. We etched and stone washed it. I left some accents, satin finished accents against the stone wash. And then the coolest part I think of the blade is the hamon effect we decided to go with. Basically what you would see on a samurai sword or any knife that's heat treated and then just slightly dipped in a certain area to do its heat treating, basically for the hardened edge. In the case of the samurai swords, they used a type of mud or clay to do this effect, but we just decided to go with this, which I think makes it look really, really cool. And then you can see the etched part is stone washed to go with that stonewash Cold Steel original stonewash. I didn't sharpen the blade. Matthew is going to be sharpening his blade. He likes to do that, so we'll leave that to him since I did tumble it and it did kind of damage the edge. Still sharp though. And with the texture on the spine of the blade, there we go. It's not a rock pattern texture. We decided to go with a scallop texture just so it's a little bit smoother and more pleasant to look at when you're looking at the blade, which I think goes really well with the scales because we decided to go with, again, the scalloped texture on the scales. As you guys can see here, this is the G10 carbon fiber mix material, which again just has a really, really cool effect when you put texture or contouring on it. Just beautiful stuff. Love this stuff. It's really strong. And I like this because it's cheaper than just straight carbon fiber. So you can still get your carbon fiber and still get that really cool wave pattern look, especially on the edges of the scales. Let's see if the camera can even pick it up. But you can see the wave pattern of the material. It's just really, really nice. Camera won't pick it up, but it's there. And then as you guys can see, I did leave the original finger grooves that you had on the original scales, and that's where you can really pick up on those really cool patterns. Just really, really awesome stuff. Really happy with the outcome on these scales. And I think that's pretty much it. And really quick before we put this thing together, I wanted to mention the part of the video, or the customizing part of the video where everything is sped up. You guys saw that I broke the tap when I was trying to thread this really thick piece of titanium. So I had to do a lot of switching out from the mill bits, which made it very time consuming. So that's why I didn't really record, because it was just a very large amount of time that went into this. So basically what I did was I started with a small mill bit, and then I worked my way up to widen this hole. And then I couldn't tap the thickness of this titanium because, again, it was just too thick and the bit wasn't strong enough. So basically what I did was I countersunk the holes, the actual holes. You can see how small they are. And then I countersunk it a larger size. That way I have maybe a 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/16 of an inch inside this larger hole, which allowed my tap to actually thread it a lot easier, and it functions and it works. So I almost gave up on this, and I figured if I just took a break and thought about it a little bit more, I'd come up with a solution, which this was basically the idea, and it works. So really happy that it came out the way it should have, and it works. So can't stress out enough how difficult it is to work with titanium by hand. But anyways, let's put it together and see what it looks like. Alright, so here it is all put together, and yeah, this thing is a beast. Very heavy. I do have the scale here next to me because I am curious to see how much this weighs. Originally this weighs 13.4 ounces, so we're going to find out in just a second how much this weighs, especially because it's got that titanium backspacer. But as you guys can see, the backspacer is slightly raised, and that is to match the lock bar, since we got rid of that little recessed area from the original scales. It's just a little bit of material, but with that little bit you can see how much is exposed. But we did match these brand new scales to the liners, which thinned it out a little bit, which I think looks way better than the other ones. It just has a nice clash, and it's got a nice, basically this whole knife has a nice theme of dark with satin finish, so it just has a lot of pop. I even added a satin finish to the thumb plate, so you guys can see it's got that nice satin finish if the camera could pick it up. But it's to go with the liners and basically everything else that has a little bit of shininess to it. And again, that scallop texture on the scales gives it grip and a really unique look. I think it just looks really good. And you can see that hamon pattern through the or even when it's closed on that blade, which is something I wanted. I didn't want to go too much, but the action on it is, I hope, still good. Okay, so still very smooth. You can drop shut it. See if I can get it. Okay, so yeah. It's very smooth, but this thing, since this thing is so big, it requires a lot of strength to handle this thing. But there it is, opened with that hamon pattern on the blade. I think just looks really good, and honestly I think it completes the look, since you do have that scallop texture, very jagged. It just goes with it and it flows. And again, just really happy with the outcome on the blade. And there it is with the pocket clip. And I got rid of the left hand carry pocket clip holes just to give that show side scale just a prettier look. You don't have random holes floating around. There it is, all complete. As always, let me know down below what you guys think of how this thing turned out. And really quick, we're gonna weigh it, but just the ergos are really nice. Even with the original scales, the ergos are really good. But this pocket clip is, even though it's really big, it's surprisingly comfortable. Like, it vanishes no matter what grip you have. Choking up, just the regular choil here, and you have that center section, and then even choking up on the back to get that good chopping action. Just really comfortable. And again, it is not an issue. So a very well made pocket clip for this really big knife. And like I said, we are gonna test out the weight. So I got my scale here, and we're gonna find out exactly how much this thing weighs. So my guess is we maybe added an ounce, so 14.4. Okay, so 13.58, so not much more, since it is 13.4 originally. So that's, hey, I'm happy with that. So not a crazy amount added. What's that, 0.14 ounces added to this, which is not a lot. But there it is. Again, really, really happy with the outcome. I think Matthew's going to love this knife. And if not, I will just keep it for myself. But I don't think that'll be the case, so there shouldn't be an issue there. But as always, thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate the support. And I will see you guys on the next one.